So in today's video, we will be talking about the absolute best way to sell your products or sell your services to complete strangers online in 2024. And by the end of this video, you will learn exactly how to do that, the absolute best strategy to sell your products or sell your services to complete strangers, right? And this will work even if you have no case studies or no prior experience, even if you have never sold a single thing in your life. What I'm about to share with you today will still work. So before I explain to you exactly what that is, I first want to explain to you some background context just so you see how everything ties together and why this is important, right? So this is actually how I stumbled across what I'm about to share with you today, right? So I've actually tested a bunch of different things, and I'm actually telling you right now, right here and now, that this is the absolute best way to sell your products or services to complete strangers in 2024, right? And obviously, I don't want to bash on other people online. I don't want to bash on other people's strategies, but I have ran my own lead generation agency for the last year and a half. I built it up from 0 to 10K in 60 days. I built it from 10K to $50,000 per month. And I've actually tried a whole bunch of things, right? Everything you can think about, I've tested it on my own, and I have never found a single thing that has worked as effectively as what I'm about to share with you in today's video. So I don't want to say that I invented the system that I'm going to share with you today, but I kind of did invent it, right? And the reason why I'm able to say that is because I didn't get this from someone else, from another course, from other YouTube videos. I kind of just, as I said, right? I just tested it, tried and errored my way through, and I figured out a system that kind of just works, right? So jumping into it, here are the 3 things that you need in order to get people to actually buy, right? So the very first thing that you need is people need to actually want what you have to sell, right? So you need to make sure whatever it is that you're selling is actually in demand, right? That's pretty obvious. We're not going to be talking about that in today's video, but if you're selling an umbrella to someone who lives in the desert, no matter what, even if you give it away for free, people still won't buy. That's the first thing you need people to believe in order to actually buy. They need to actually want what you have for sale. The second thing is a lot of people need to actually know what it is that you have for sale. So essentially, you just need to get a lot of attention, a lot of eyeballs onto your business and onto your offer. So that's number 2. Now, finally, the third thing is people need to trust that your product, that your service will get them to the desired goal. Right? So obviously they first have to believe that whatever it is that you're selling actually works. So if you're selling cold email lead generation, that cold emails actually work to generate leads. And once they believe that, they need to believe that you are the best person to run the cold emails for them. So that's number 3, right? And I actually put this out over here, right? So the first one over here is selling something that people want, right? So this is obviously pretty simple. Do people want what you have for sale, right? If they don't, it's not gonna work, right? And the most telling sign of whether you're selling something that people actually want is, can you actually find other people who are selling what you are selling, right? So a lot of people, they're actually scared of competition, but competition is a good thing in the sense where if you find a bunch of other people selling cold email lead generation, if you find a bunch of other people selling Facebook ads as a service, if you find a lot of people selling SEO, then you know that the market wants it, that there's demand in the market. Now, on the other hand, if you find some random service that just you can't find, you make a Google search and you can't really find anyone online who sells that specific service, that's kind of a hint that it is uncharted territories, uncharted waters, and you might end up selling something that people just don't really want. So make sure that you can find other people, other competitors. But again, we're not going to be focusing on today's video. What we'll be focusing in today's video, we'll be mainly talking about these 2 things, right? The first one is how to generate attention, right? So 90% of your sales related problems would literally be solved by generating more attention, right? So the question is, how do you actually generate as much attention as humanly possible? That's the number 1 question that you want to be solving, right? And the best way to do that is look for channels with leverage, because obviously there's a bunch of channels that you could use to generate attention, right? Obviously, the first one is ads, right? If you're running Facebook ads, YouTube ads, then you can generate a lot of attention. But what you're trading for is you're trading attention, you're trading eyeballs for cash, right? So you're paying money to run your ads. Now, the next channel that you could use is obviously what I talk a lot about on this YouTube channel is cold emails. And the reason why this is really good, and sorry for my really bad writing, but the reason why this works is because what you're able to do is you're able to reach out to a bunch of people, generate a lot of eyeballs onto your offer, onto your business, and you're not necessarily trading cash the same way you are for ads. Now, obviously, there are certain things you gotta pay for, so like the email accounts, the domains, things like that. But for the most part, you're the cost for you to reach out to 1,000 people isn't too different than if you wanted to reach out to 2,000 people. Now, obviously, you're gonna have to get more email accounts and things like that. It's gonna be a few dollars more, but you're not trading in direct proportion money, right? And finally, another way that people think about is by picking up the phone and doing cold calls. Now, the issue with this is this channel isn't leveraged at all in the sense where if you wanted to pick up the phone and cold call 50 people, that might take you half an hour. But if you wanted to pick up the phone and cold call 500 people, that's gonna literally take you 3 or 4 hours. So you're trading your time to get more attention on to your business, right? So you want to look for a channel that's extremely leveraged, or the most leverage you can do. Now, for the purposes of what we're talking about, it's gonna be cold emails, because again, there's no channel out there where you're able to get the most amount of attention possible with a good balance of cost and time. And finally, you want to find a channel where you can literally get in front of as many people as possible with the least amount of resources, right? So this kind of ties back into the thing about leverage, right? Cold calling works, but you're not able to reach out to 1,000 people per day. And if you are, hypothetically, you're gonna burn out pretty quickly, because you're not gonna be able to do that 24/7, right? With ads, you're literally spending your money. You have to spend thousands of dollars in order to get in front of 10,000 people, right? But for cold emails, you don't really have to do too much in order to get in front of 10,000 people. You just gotta set up a bunch of email accounts, and because of the softwares and things like that, the process is relatively automated, right? So that's number 2, right? Generating as much attention, right? And finally, the third thing is you want to be building credibility with attention. And what I mean by that is this is where 99% of people, they literally neglect this, right? In the sense where most people focus on this aspect, which is generating attention, but not enough people actually focus on building credibility with attention. Because it's one thing to get a lot of people to know about who you are, but what do you do with that attention? Because even if 1 million people know who you are, if you just try to sell something to them without proving yourself, people aren't just gonna magically take out their credit cards and pay for your service or send you thousands of dollars. And the reason why they won't do that is because they don't trust you, right? 1 million people know who you are, but they don't trust that you have what it takes in order to get them a result, that they're paying for something that will actually give them a return inside of their business, right? So the biggest issue is business in 2024 is completely different than how it was back in 2019, back in 2020, etc., back 4 or 5 years ago. So the biggest issue that people talk about online is they're using strategies that probably worked 3, 4, 5 years ago, but the business landscape has completely changed in 2024. There's so many people starting online businesses that the strategies that was used 5 years ago literally doesn't work anymore, right? You can't just be sending a bunch of emails, book some calls, and expect to print cash. That's just not how it works, right? The market has changed, and that's just not how it works anymore. So let me explain to you exactly what I mean by that, right? But before we move forward, here is the formula in order to actually print cash, right? So the first one is selling something that people want, plus generating attention, plus building credibility equals to cash, solid cash, right? So that's the formula in order to actually sell your products and sell your services to complete strangers online. So I'm gonna explain to you exactly what that means. So the very first thing of why I say that the methods that was used 4 or 5 years ago no longer works in 2024 is because here is actually something that I found while I was putting this video together, right? So according to the General Social Survey, which is the longest standing survey conducted in North America or conducted in US, talking about information on trust and other related things, right? So that's a survey that was conducted, and they actually found that in the last 50 years, person-to-person trust is at the lowest point in literally the last 50 years. So as we can see, right, this graph isn't even fully updated for 2024. This graph is updated up until 2019 or 2020, where we see over here where person-to-person trust is literally down here, right? If we scroll back to 1960, it was over here, right? So over the last 50 years, it literally went like this. That is where that line has went. So person-to-person trust is literally at the lowest point in the last 50 years in North America, which is probably where, is the best representation of overall person-to-person trust in businesses. So what that means is when you're selling your services, people just don't really believe what you have to sell. When you tell people, oh, I could get you XYZ result, people just won't believe you just right off the bat, because people just don't trust other people, not right now in the current economy, in the current situation. Now, the other thing that's important to remember is there's a research that was actually conducted by Google, and what that found was that in order for someone to actually buy your services, there's something called the 7, 4, and 1 rule. And what that means is a buyer needs 7 hours worth of interactions across 11 touch points across 4 separate locations before they make a purchase. So what that means is in order to build trust, you want to put some sort of content out there where people are able to interact with you, interact with your brand for minimum 7 hours. You want to have multiple touch points, which is why it's so important to have follow-ups in your actual cold email sequences. And you want to try your best to reach out to them across 4 different platforms. Now, obviously, for the purposes of what we're talking about, if you're selling B2B, you might not have the luxury of getting a business owner, a very busy business owner, to consume 7 hours worth of their content. You might not be able to get a very busy business owner to reach out to you 11 times across 4 different platforms, but you want to keep this rule in mind anytime you're building out your own sales systems in order to sell your products or sell your services. Keep it in mind that your goal is to get your content in front of as many people as possible, create enough content where people are able to consume and interact with you for a sustained period of time, and create a profile on all of these social platforms. So whether that's on YouTube, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a pretty big one if you're selling to B2B, right? Make sure you have those profiles because people actually check that profile. Make sure you have a working website, right? That's another platform, right? So keep this rule in mind that people need to have 7 hours worth of content before they actually buy your stuff. So what does this actually mean for you, right? So I'm gonna first illustrate why I say that the strategies that worked 4 or 5 years ago just kind of doesn't work anymore. Because the old ways of doing things is, let's say you would just take an email. So I'm just gonna draw an email. And what people would do is they would email random leads, essentially being like, hey, John, we do XYZ. If you're open to it, why don't we jump on a call? And then what happens is someone would jump onto a call and then they would expect to print cash. However, this way of doing things doesn't work. And the reason why is because what this strategy relies on is you're reaching out on one touch point on one platform, which is email. You're reaching out to someone, jumping onto a call. Let's say that call takes an hour of your time, and you expect people to pay you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 at the end of that 1 hour interaction, when all they know about you is that you sell this specific service. They spoke with you a little bit to understand the logistical questions, ask you some questions, your price, that type of thing, and you expect them to buy from you right away. So this is why it doesn't work, because it literally does not follow this it literally does not follow this rule that you need in order for people to actually buy. It does not follow this rule, so it doesn't work. So the new way of doing things, and basically the overall idea of the strategy, which I'll be outlining in today's video, is this, right? So the first thing you want to do is we're going to take an email. And rather than pushing to people for a call, you're gonna turn them into a sales asset. And we're gonna talk about what that is. So for example, you could use a video, you could use a white paper, you could use a PDF. It doesn't really matter. But essentially, you're gonna be pushing people to a sales asset. Let's assume it's a video. So it's going to be a VSL, where that video, you're going to be talking about your process and you're going to be supplementing your content. And the reason why this works is because, back to that example of a buyer needs 7 hours worth of interactions, right? You're building up that hours of interactions by redirecting people over to your sales asset. And then once people consume a bunch of content, once they're ready to actually buy from you, that's when you push them to a call. And after that call, that's where you collect your cash. So this is the new way of doing things, right? It's slightly different from the old way, right? You're taking the fundamentals from what works 4 or 5 years ago, is that the main difference now is you're adding in an additional layer where you're now able to push people towards a sales asset to get your brand in front of as many people as possible. So you're able to increase the amount of hours that you're actually able to interact with people before they make their buying decision, right? So that's the new way of doing things. It's slightly different. So then you're probably asking yourself, what is a sales asset? What is a lead magnet? Those are kind of two synonyms, but they kind of mean the exact same thing. So what is a sales asset or lead magnet? So a sales asset is a valuable resource or a valuable tool that is offered by a business to potential customers in exchange for their contact information, usually an email, right? That's the answer from ChatGPT. However, what we're using it for is we're going to be using a sales asset, which is a valuable resource offered to businesses. We're not going to collect the contact information. We're not going to contact their email addresses, not with the cold email funnel that we're talking about in today's video. Instead, we're just going to be leveraging that as a unique insight, as a resource to convince someone to actually buy our specific service and to increase the trust in the process and in you as the person who is running that specific process, right? So the benefits of using a lead magnet, the benefits of using a sales asset is it builds trust. This is the number one thing. It builds trust by providing valuable content. You're literally establishing credibility. You're establishing trust with your audience. That's the entire purpose of a sales asset, of why it works so well, right? That's the main thing. This is not that relevant. We're not really growing our email list. That's not what we're doing, right? We are qualifying leads because the message that you use inside your sales asset could determine who it is that you're selling your services to, because not every single person who you email that you send your sales asset to is someone who you can sell your services to. For example, if you're trying to sell to marketing agencies, you might a recruitment agency owner might end up watching that sales asset. And if they're watching that sales asset, obviously you're not selling to recruitment agencies, you're selling to marketing agencies. So a lead magnet or a sales asset also works in a way to help you qualify your leads. The next point is it increases engagement, right? People watch your YouTube video. Let's say you send them a video sales letter, it's hosted on YouTube, they're gonna watch through your VSL, and if they're interested, they're gonna click into your channel, and if you have additional pieces of content, they're gonna watch those other pieces of content as well, which actually adds on to the 7-hour rule, where people need 7 hours worth of content before they actually make their purchasing decision. And finally, the most important aspect is it provides insights with a sales asset, right? So it helps you understand your audience needs and preferences based on the type of content that they engage with. Because for example, if you're putting together a sales asset and you're sending it to your prospects, you're sending it to people who might potentially buy your products or services, not all of them is gonna be of equal interest. They'll be very specific. Like let's say you create 5 pieces of sales assets. 1 or 2 of them are going to stand out way more than the other 3. Right? That's just how it works, where not everything is of equal importance, right? So how do you actually create an effective lead magnet? So the very first thing is obviously you have to understand your audience. You gotta do some research. You gotta make sure whatever it is that you're putting together is relevant towards your audience. If you're selling to realtors, your sales asset should probably be towards realtors. It should be built with the purpose of selling to realtors. It shouldn't be built with the purposes of talking to marketing agency owners or recruitment agency owners. It needs to be pretty relevant and pretty specific in terms of who it is that you're selling your services to. The next thing, very key aspect, is you actually need to offer your value. Because if you're sending the sales asset to a business owner and you're just talking bullshit for 30 minutes, people are going to click off and it's not gonna work, right? It actually has to be valuable. It has to provide real value and addresses a specific pain point or a specific need. And that's exactly why you need to do research on the people that you're reaching out to. The next thing is you need to keep it focused. So don't make your sales asset too broad. Make sure you're talking about one specific pain point, one specific problem, and how your product or how your service actually solves this specific problem. So keep it focused. Make it visually appealing, so then that way it's not that boring, because people don't want to just read a wall of text. That's just not how it works. People will just click off the video after 30 seconds. If they click onto your video and the first thing they see is just a giant wall of text. And finally, make sure you include a very clear call to action, because remember the funnel that we talked about earlier, you're directing the attention from cold emails onto your sales asset, and at the end of your sales asset, your call to action is, hey, so if this is something of interest, John, why don't we set up a quick time to chat? So make sure you include a clear call to action. So what are some examples of sales assets, right? So for me, I run a lead generation agency called SalesRate.io. I started that in October 2023 and I scaled it up to 50K. But over the last year and a half, as I'm filming this video, I've actually built a lot of sales assets, and the vast majority of those sales assets, you can find them yourself on my own YouTube channel, right? Because obviously I'm building everything, I'm putting my content out on YouTube, and I'm cold emailing business owners, and I'm directing that attention onto my YouTube channel because I have so much videos, which is just additional social proof to prove to people that I am real, that I'm an expert, that I'm credible, that I'm a person of authority, of all these different things. So here are actually examples of my own sales assets that I have used, that I have tested over the last year and a half, right? And I want you to notice a couple of things. I want you to notice the topic of what I'm talking about. Obviously, you're not gonna know unless you go and find each of these videos and watch them yourself, but you can kind of tell the topic of what I'm talking about based on the title. So the very first sales asset that I used is what I like to call a video sales letter. It's a VSL. Essentially, it's a video where I'm selling my process. I'm explaining to prospects, here are the key steps that I will take for you if we were to work together. Here is the outcome you can expect, and here is exactly how we're able to achieve this specific result. And this is my very first sales asset that I actually put together. It's pretty bad. But as you can see, right, I uploaded this on November 27, 2022. So like a month into my business that I started. I titled it, How We Make It Unreasonable for Service Businesses to Not Sign 3 to 5 Clients Monthly. And it's actually pretty funny because someone actually commented on this specific video where they said there's a grammatical error. But that's kind of the point, right? Because it just sounds way catchier by saying how we make it unreasonable. But anyways, that's my offer. But as you can see, even in this video over here, if you look at it, this is a process where I say, hey, the first thing that we do to help you sign these 3 to 5 new clients is we get you new leads, right? That's what we do. These are the processes that we take you in order to get you leads. The next thing is the setup, right? So we're setting up the cold email infrastructure, the domains, the deliverability, the email warm-up, the outreach copy, all of these different things. The next step that we take is we build out your email sequence for you, right? So we have the cold email sequence, follow-up 1, follow-up 2, follow-up 3, all of these different things. And then finally, the inbox management. So replying back to leads, which then leads to booked calls, right? So as you can see, even from this video, I'm talking about the process that I will take, right? So the topic is how to sign 3 to 5 clients every single month. How will we help you sign 3 to 5 new clients? Well, this is the process that we will take, right? And obviously this sales asset, it cooked, right? It worked extremely, extremely well. So what I was doing was I was reaching out to business owners and I was saying, hey, we can help you sign 3 to 5 new clients every single month. I put together a quick video showing you exactly how we do this. Mind if I share it with you? Because it's a valuable piece of insight. It's actually valuable. And as a business owner, because I did my research and I found out that they actually want 3 to 5 new clients every single month, it's kind of a no-brainer for them to reply back and say, sure, Jim, send me over this video. So that's exactly what I sent them. Here is another example. Here's my second VSL that I ever created, my second sales asset. The topic is how I booked 16 sales calls in 1 week. So it's slightly different than the first video that I showed you. This one is what I like to call a case study video sales letter. And as the name implies, I'm leveraging a case study. So I'm leading with an outcome of me achieving a very specific end result and then explaining to people how I was able to do this. However, the key point is, if you notice, even in this title, I use the word I. How I booked 16 sales calls in 1 week. How we booked 16 sales calls in 1 week. So a lot of people think that when you have to create a case study video sales letter, a case study VSL, they have to leverage a client. No, they don't. The best part about a lead generation agency, if you're watching this video and you're selling cold email lead generation as a service, is the same process that you are using for yourself to get clients for yourself is literally the exact same process that you're leveraging for your clients as well. So you're literally able to take your process and show people. And that's exactly what I did in this video. I literally went with, hey, so here is the process for my own business, how I was able to get this extremely desirable result, how I was able to generate 16 sales calls in 1 week. And then I'm walking through the process, walking through leads of how I was able to do that. As you can see, I show some proof over here where this is my calendar where I'm showing my sales calls. And essentially inside this video is 30 minutes long. I'm like, okay, so we got these 16 sales calls in 1 week. These are the specific processes that we used inside of our business to achieve this. If you want for us to build a similar process for you that we use to get 16 sales calls for ourselves, then book a time in the link with the, with the link in the description and we'll chat. That's essentially what I was talking about in this video sales letter. Now, the next one that I did, right, this is more of a tutorial style video sales letter. And the purpose of this is to build my credibility, right? Because it's one thing for me to say, we can help you get 3 to 5 new clients. We can help you book 16 sales calls in 1 week. But people don't really, anyone can kind of say that, if that makes sense. So the best thing you can do is provide unique insights. So keyword, providing real insights. You're actually teaching people something that they didn't previously know about, right? So for me, what I decided to teach people was how to scrape leads, because that was a pretty big problem, pretty big question mark that a lot of people had, especially if they've tried cold emails in the past or they're aware of cold emails, is how do I actually scrape leads? And when I was building my own lead generation agency, this is kind of where I spent a lot of my time trying to understand the best way to scrape leads. What is the quickest, most efficient way to get as many leads as possible for the least amount of money, right? So I actually put this video together, the best lead generation strategy for 2024, right? That's exactly what I was doing. And inside this video, I literally had Apollo open. I think I was showing people how to get leads from marketing agencies, and I'm using the filters. So people who've never actually done this wouldn't be able to create a video like this. They wouldn't be able to talk for 22 minutes about how to use Apollo to generate leads. So someone who's actually interested in potentially working with me to build a cold email system for me to help them generate leads using cold emails, they're gonna watch this video, this 22-minute video, and by the end of it, they're gonna have a couple of things. The first thing is now they're gonna learn and know exactly how to generate leads. But the second thing, the most important aspect, is they're gonna understand how we do it. They're gonna believe that I'm the expert, that I know what I'm talking about because I'm teaching people how to actually do it. The next VSO that I have is, I titled it, The New Way of Cold Emailing in 2024. Don't make this mistake, right? So inside this video, I'm talking a lot about email deliverability because that's a massive question that a lot of people have when they're first figuring out about cold emails or trying to use cold emails to generate leads, or they've tried cold emails and it didn't work. Well, the largest reason is probably because of deliverability. So inside of this video is a 21-minute video. I'm talking about how to set up your cold email domains, your cold email accounts the right way to make sure that all the emails you're sending are actually making it in the inbox. Now, again, this is a tutorial style video, and the purpose of this video is to showcase my credibility and to make people understand that I'm a person of authority, that I'm an expert, and that I actually know what I'm talking about. Now, the next video is a video I put together. It's called Free 2024 Cold Email Course for Beginners, full masterclass, right? And this was a really high converting video sales letter for me. And as you can see, this was, a bit longer. This was almost an hour long. But think about it like this. If you're not an expert, if someone is not an expert, they wouldn't be able to explain a specific topic for close to an hour. They're just not. Right? So if you're able to do that, you're very clearly an expert. And inside this video, I was talking about how a business could go out on their own, build the entire cold email infrastructure and make it work. And I explain to people and I walk people through exactly how to do that A to Z, essentially step by step. And the reason why this will work is because I'm leading with so much value. I'm leading with so much insight up front, but a portion of those people, right? Obviously, my intention is to actually teach people how to do that, and people could go out and figure out how to do it themselves, right? They could watch the video, follow everything that I do step by step, go out, do it themselves, implement it. But the problem is a lot of people, they'll try to do that and they'll get stuck, right? This is the truth. It's not even a sales strategy. Is oftentimes the information alone is not enough to successfully do something, right? There's all of this information online. You can learn how to cook a hamburger. It doesn't mean you'll be able to cook the best tasting hamburger. Why is that? It's because there's a lot of tiny things that go into the actual process that turns a bad burger that someone can make into one of the greatest burgers that someone can eat ever. And the exact same thing applies, especially as a business owner, where a lot of the people that buys the actual service, is not that they can't learn how to cold email themselves. It's not that they can't do the process themselves, but what they want is they're trading their cash, they're trading their money so that they could buy back their time because they don't want to do it themselves, right? They don't want to spend the 10 to 20 hours to set up the entire infrastructure, or they want to just make sure that it works from the get-go, right? If they're gonna do it, they want to make sure it works right away. They don't want to spend 2 months trying all these different things just for it to find out that it's not going to work. They rather just trade their cash, a little bit of money, $2, $3, $4, $5,000, and make sure that it works right away. And that's exactly why I make all of these videos, where even on my YouTube channel, I talk about a lot of different things. But my goal is to give as much value away for free, because obviously people could go and implement everything that I tell them and get to the result that they want to, whether that's building a lead gen agency or signing clients or generating sales calls using cold emails. But the reason why people would still want to work with me is because, number one, they don't want to do it themselves, right? Or they realize that even if they did go and do it themselves, there's a very strong chance that it's just not going to work because they don't understand how it works, right? It's not just the information. People are paying for implementation. Keep that in mind when you're putting together your video sales letters, right? So this process worked. It worked for me. I literally showed you 5 examples of sales assets that I have used inside of my business that have just worked, and printed hundreds of sales calls, booked thousands, got me a bunch of different clients, and maybe tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars with my own online business. So in case you still have some doubts about proof that this works, I just decided to find a couple people that I'm working together with to build up their lead generation agencies. And this is kind of what to talk about, right? So we have Jordan, who literally said that the very first sales call that he took, he signed a client, right? And why is that? Is because he's leveraging what we talked about today, a video sales letter, which inspired so much trust that the first person he jumped onto a sales call with actually wanted to buy his service already, right? We have Ben, who signed a $3,000 deal, right? How was he able to do that? By leveraging exactly what we're talking about today, right? I don't know if you would have been able to sign that $3,000 deal if you just cold emailed people, booked a call, and tried to sell them his $3,000 service right off the bat. That's not what he did. What Ben did was he used the cold emails, redirected people to a sales asset, warmed them up, built up some trust, got people to consume a couple hours worth of his content, and by the time that they jumped onto the sales call, they were already ready to buy because they already trusted Ben, they already believed in his process, right? We have Safras, who literally said he closed a deal literally from his VSL, right? They asked for his video sales letter, right? His VSL, and then he did the follow-up. So back to the rule of people, in order to actually buy, they need to consume a bunch of different content for ideally a couple hours across different touch points, right? So he talked about it right here. The VSL literally helps build up towards the hours. His follow-ups is the touch points that he's doing, right? We have Kevin, who closed a $3,500 deal plus $300 per call, right? This is actually wrong. This is $300 per call. And another guy who I'm working with, his name is Tony, literally said that Kevin has a really good video sales letter, right? Because he went and searched up his name and he found Kevin's VSL that he's using inside of his cold email process, and it worked. We have Jason, who closed a $37,000 deal with his VSL, right? His friend watched his VSL and it worked. That's the power of an effective video sales letter. We have Brian, who got to $11,000 a month, and right after he redesigned his sales process and redesigned his video sales letter. And then finally we have Tom's, and this is a crazy example that this process works, because if you read what Tom says, he says, guys, I just closed my first ever deal, $1,500 setup fee split into 3 payments plus $250 per call. By the way, this was the first sales call I ever took in my life, and English is not even my first language. That's the power of the video sales letter. If you're leveraging a sales asset that people actually find valuable, that you're not wasting people's time, they're gonna book a sales call with you. And the reason why is because they believe in the process and they believe that you know what you're doing. You're the best person to run the system, right? So here's just some proof just to show you that this process not just works for myself, but it works for a bunch of other people. And obviously I have a bunch more, but I didn't want to bombard you with this video. So in this video, that's just what I wanted to talk about. This is the new way to convert random strangers online to buy your products or your services for thousands of dollars, right? To summarize, the main things you want to keep in mind is anytime you're building up the sales process as you're selling your product or service, try to incorporate the rule of the hours of the content, right? Understand that person-to-person trust is at the lowest point. So it's more important now than ever to understand how this works. Understand how to build up as much trust as humanly possible before you actually sell your products or your services. And obviously the rule is the 7 hours worth of interactions across 11 touch points and in 4 separate locations. So hope you found this video valuable. If you did, make sure you drop me a like, make sure you drop me a subscribe, make sure you drop your comments in the description or in the comments down below. And in fact, if you made it to the end of this video, drop me an Apple emoji, drop me the apple, just so that I can see who actually made it all the way to the end. Drop me an apple. But hope you found this video valuable, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.